Leon, thank you very much for coming on the podcast today. Thank you for inviting me to your office.
Thank you for coming down. Much appreciated. Thank you for having
me. So we had a wicked conversation a few weeks back, and first time I ever spoke to you, I called you for two reasons, right? I called you about the podcast and called you about coaching training. You said you have called it a terrible time, but yes and yes, we'll speak. And when we spoke about the podcast, you came up with some wicked ideas around what we can talk about. Now, you and I are very passionate around BD, cold calling, so that's going to be a huge topic of conversation in today's episode. But before we get into those topics, people who may or may not know who you are and what you do, just give us a bit of an intro.
So my name is Leon Mitten. I am founder and director of Agnes Consulting. We're a specialist IT and IT technology recruitment firm based in the UK. Started about 4 years ago. We operate on a global scale, but mostly across mainland Europe and the US.
Nice. Happy days. So, why don't we just kick off with one of the first things we spoke about around recruitment being a sales job.
Yep.
Right. So, when this episode comes out, there will be an episode that people may or may not have seen with a guy called Chris Holland. His whole marketing, he's a marketing agency for recruitment companies. His whole marketing shtick is recruitment is a marketing job.
Yeah.
So when he came on the podcast, I challenged him on that, and I think we came to some sort of like common ground around there are aspects of this job that are marketing, but
Absolutely.
you know, I firmly believe that largely this is a sales job. But if I throw it over to you, mate, what do you think about that?
I mean, look, there is aspects of it that I believe, yes, he's right, or people that think that it's marketing. I would say, yeah, to a certain extent, you are correct, but ultimately, whether you're selling to the candidate and you're selling a new opportunity, or whether you're pitching to a client that you can offer, you can service their needs, you are selling. I remember when I first started off in recruitment, I remember doing, calls and being, because I came from a real sales background. Like we used to sell software. So that was like proper 100, 150 phone calls every day, 3 hours on the phone, just like bam, 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 constantly pitching. So when I started recruitment and everyone was like, it's sales, I was a bit like, how is this sales? And it wasn't until I really got into the trenches and I was like, okay, like you have to sell the opportunity, And I believe all the really good recruiters give, whether it's a candidate, not so much clients, but from a candidate perspective, I think a lot of the time the good recruiters get the candidate to sell themselves back to you and explain why they're a good fit, It's one thing you can be like, pitching to candidates especially, but there's the great recruiters that I've come across, they get the candidate to sell themselves back, And there's a very interesting psychology in how you can do that if you listen to calls and if you do enough candidate time, you get to the point where you are able to do that. So I would say the great recruiters, they get the candidate to sell themselves back. So as well as you selling them the opportunity. Yeah. Because ultimately, this person, the good passive candidates, they're not available. 9 times out of 10, they're not available. They're doing something. So it's down to you to explain to them why your opportunity is more fitting than what they're currently doing. There's an aspect of sales in there, 100%. Yeah. That's my thoughts on it.
No, I totally agree. I literally went through this with a couple of my clients recently around like the questioning, right? Yeah. Their whole thing is about what do we ask clients on the phone, and I said, would you ask a candidate on the phone? Yeah. Like what types of questions are you asking them? And I wanted to get your opinion around the psychology of that. And I'm always fascinated about what people think makes great recruiters. But if I think about what I used to do especially is 90% of my placements came from candidates that weren't actively looking for work, right? They were really, really good people.
Yep.
And what I've seen with some, let's call them the average recruiters, right? We'll just throw that term out there. Yep. What they do is they find a suitable candidate and they call them and say, what's your situation? I'm pretty happy where I am, right? I've got this amazing job looking at your profile. This is why I think it could be a good fit. And what typically happens when they do that is towards the end of the process, the candidate, they didn't really know what the candidate's need was. They didn't really actually understand the whole thing, like what could go wrong, like why are they actually looking to leave, like what about a counter offer?
Absolutely.
You see so many like my last job, I saw so many like senior cons get to final stage interview, put it up on the whiteboard going, I'm pipelining 20k, and then it falls out. And it's like, well, you didn't really do a good enough job.
That goes back to, again, when I first started out, I was taught qualification, whether that's from a candidate perspective or from a client perspective. Qualify and understand what the pain point is, and then sell how you can resolve that problem. And this is my solution. Whether that's a candidate that says to you, I'm sick of traveling. I've been going into the office for the last 3 years. I've had enough of it. I don't want to do it. I want to have more time at home. Great. This opportunity that I've got is 100% remote. There you go. You've understood what's the desire, what is it that they're looking for, and how you can solve their problem. My solution is 100% remote. Or, everyone else in my business has had a 10K increase and I've not had a pay rise in the last 2 years. Great. My opportunity is paying 15K more. It's qualify. I think, again, with average recruiters and good recruiters, great recruiters, listen more than they speak.
Hey guys, quick one before we jump back into the episode. If you are a recruiter who feels like half your week disappears into admin, follow-ups, data cleaning, and jumping between several different tools, then listen up, because this episode is officially sponsored by Sourcewell. Sourcewell is the recruitment productivity platform, and I don't just mean another tool that you'll forget to use. I mean the tool that actually gives you your time back. You can run your entire desk in one place. Outreach, sourcing, data enrichment, multi-step email and LinkedIn sequences, inbox management, and even call notes. It's all there, synced, automated, and according to their stats, recruiters using Sourcewell see 56% higher response rates, double the pipeline, and approximately save around 8 hours of admin every single week. If you're like me, admin as a recruiter is the devil, and this productivity platform really helps you save a load of time. So reach out to Sourcewell, go to sourcewell.com. It's a fantastic platform. I've used it myself. I really believe in it, and I'm super grateful for them sponsoring the podcast. Let's get back into the episode.
They understand, they speak to you, and be quiet. I remember one of my first managers used to say to me, shut the fuck up.
I had the exact same thing.
Yeah, she used to be like, shut the fuck up. Why are you talking right now? And I'm like, okay, shut the fuck up. There's a lot of power in silence.
Yeah, can I tell you something funny? It was 100% make you laugh. I had the exact same thing from my old boss, Tim.
Yep.
And we used to have the old landlines on the desk, right?
Yep.
And there was a big button that would flash red when you were muted, right?
Yep.
I would ask the most unbelievably thought-provoking open question.
Yep.
Then I'll answer it myself.
Yeah.
Or I'll go, or is it this, or is it that? And it's uncertain language. So one day my boss, he's 6'4", built like a brick shit house, walks over to me, presses the mute button, and went, what a brilliant question, mate. I was like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
Or shut the fuck up. And what I did is I just shut up for a second whilst it was muted, and the candidate goes, do you know what, Charles, that's a brilliant question. And then just rambled on. And I was like, oh, so literally after that moment, I had this thing where I was like, I know, and this is when I got into coaching as well, that I would answer my own questions because my brain works too fast.
Yep.
So if I didn't have the phone in front of me, like if I was in a coaching session or if I was managing someone, I would visualize that mute button and push that. If I had the phone, like I do it now with my mobile, I push the mute button and just go, oh my God, just shut the fuck up and wait. And honestly, the silence, it's
100%.
Such a killer
100%.
tip.
From a client perspective as well, that client, from a client perspective, it works so well.
Yeah.
Ask the question, what's the pain point? Then go quiet. There's a bit of an awkwardness in the beginning, and it's a bit uncomfortable, then they'll go, well, actually, and they stop. People want to talk. People do naturally want to talk.
Yeah.
They want to tell you.
And people want to feel the silence. Most people feel uncomfortable in silence.
Exactly.
So you have to find comfort in the uncomfortableness.
It's just what I was about to say. You have to find the comfort in that uncomfortable silence.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. And when you can master that, then you're in a position where whether you're selling to candidates or you're selling to clients, but it goes back to qualifying.
Yeah.
You have to understand. I have it all the time. New guys will come to me and be like, I've got this contract opportunity and I found this guy and he's great, but he's a permie and da-da-da-da. How long's the contract? The contract's for 6 months. So this guy's permanent. Yeah, how long's he been there? He's been there for 10 years. So this guy that's been there for 10 years is going to leave his 10-year role to go join this project that we have for 6 months. Why? Oh, I'm giving him more money. How much more are you giving him? I'm giving him an extra 10 grand. Would you do that? Well, no, I wouldn't. So why do you think that one of my early managers, a guy called Tassos, used to say to me, you're trying to fit a circle into a square hole. He used to always say that to me. Yeah. Trying to fit a circle into a square hole. And it wasn't until I got to the point where I stopped thinking, I don't know about you, but when I was doing recruitment every day and I was in the trenches, I didn't think about the end result. Recruitment is too anticlimax, right? You have to be able to appreciate the journey, right? If I got a new requirement, I would think, my goal is to find the perfect candidate. That's it.
Yeah.
What happens after that is out of my control. Do you know what I mean? If I find the perfect candidate, I'm in.
Yeah.
I've done what I needed to do.
Yeah, true.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, if he gets that's my first endorphin hit. If he gets an interview, excellent. Second endorphin hit. I'm buzzing. I've got an interview. That's good enough for me. If he gets an offer, excellent. I've done it. Euphoric. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I don't ever focus on that. Focus on the journey.
I think that comes with time, though, doesn't it? Because
Of course,
a lot of junior recruiters, like...
Yeah, you want to make money. You come into an organization and people tell you, oh, I'm making 15 grand a month, I'm making 20 grand a month, and you think, wow, I want to do that. How do I do that? I need to make more placements. No, you don't. Of course, you need to make more placements. What you need to do is you need to sharpen your craft.
Yeah, you need to like really master the process.
Master the process.
Yeah.
That's what you need to do. That's why people that don't have droppers have mastered the process. Do you know what I mean? Have a they stay close to their candidates. They do feedback.
Yeah.
You know, they understand their clients. Sometimes you come across the perfect candidate, and it's like, this person's not going to be right for this client because I know this client.
Yeah.
I have clients that before my candidate's interview, I'll say to them, right, this is what John's like. He's this kind of a person. You know, he's very, very, very laid back, very relaxed. So when you're on the call with him, be prepared. It might seem like you're doing terrible because he's giving you nothing back, but that's just his attitude. That's how he is. He will warm up in time. But on the first call, it's going to feel like, what is this? This is the worst interview I've ever had. You know, and it wasn't until I learned those people's little nuances, you know? Yeah. And then I'll say to the client, oh, Mr. Client, you know, I spoke to this guy, you know, he's a bit shy, but when I spoke to him for 2 or 3 times, the third time he opened up a bit more, so just expect that. You know, it's understanding your client, understanding your customer. You know, and sorry, understanding your candidate, understanding your customer. You know, so it's qualification, man. Qualification is first and foremost.
And it's on both sides as well. It's like,
absolutely.
You speak to a client, like I went through this in a coaching session this week, like you speak to a client and like their objection to me was like, a lot of the people we're speaking to at the minute are not hiring right now. Yep. I was like, okay, fine. What challenges have they had when they had hired? Like, what challenges do they foresee happening overall in the business? Forget recruitment for a second. And then finally, when will they be hiring again, right? That initial call, like you had them on the phone for 10, 15 minutes, you can still qualify, you can gather those insights. Yep. And going back to what you said around when you did like software sales, like we partnered with someone and he used to be like enterprise software sales, and his whole methodology is, what is the problem we're trying to solve? Yeah. That is the methodology. And I think in recruitment, that's a sales thing, right? I think.
But that is, honestly, mate, sorry to cut you off, the most success I've ever had in recruitment has been down to, where is my problem solved? What's the issue that you're having, Mr. Client, Mrs. Client? How can I help you? Yeah. Not even how can I help you. That's the problem. This is how I can help you. Yes. I have the resolution that you're looking for. Yeah. You know, value add. I tell my guys all the time, where is your value add? Why should this client work with you? The industry that we work in is so saturated and so cutthroat. There is 15, 20, 30 people that are trying to take your spot on that PSL today. Tomorrow there'll be another 15, 20, 30 people. How are you adding value? You know, if you're not adding value, then it's best you just move on.
I think that there's like, we spoke about this when we jumped on a video call a few weeks back about how many like one-man bands have set up in the most recent time, how many agencies set up every single day. And it's mind-boggling to me how many people, when I have discovery calls with people, even if they don't need me, and I'm just like, what can I do to help you? And they're like, and I ask them a question like, how are you different? Like, what is your differentiator? What is your value add to customers? And a lot of people just sit there and go, well, I've made some placements, I've found some people, I'm a specialist. Specialist?
Everyone's a specialist.
What do you mean a specialist?
Everyone's a specialist.
If you're not a specialist these days, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, everyone's a specialist.
Yeah, exactly. So how can you actually define how you're a specialist? What does that actually mean to the client? Like, my favourite quote around recruitment being a sales job is that the best salespeople sell without the customer or the client feeling like they're being sold to.
Absolutely.
If you can do that, exactly the way we've just spoken about, around what are your problems?
It's about value add, qualifying, and then where is the value add? You know what I mean? It goes back to if you're selling cars, you're not going to sell a pregnant family a 2-seater car. It doesn't make no sense. That's not what they're looking for. They don't need that. Where's the value add? Where is your value add? You have to understand who your customer is and what it is that they're looking for. You know, we've got customers in Germany that will pay whatever. Yeah. They want quality. They want the best. They will pay whatever. Then I've got other clients around the world that don't necessarily want quality. They just want the best price that they can because they're concerned with their P&L. That's what they want. They want a good candidate, don't get me wrong, but they want the best price. Yeah. And I understand that. You know, I'm not going to send this client a £1,500 a day consultant. But, you know, likewise, my German client, I'm not going to send them someone that costs 500 a day that's got 3 years experience. Because they'll say, Leon, what is this? That's not what we need. This person's got to work at Deutsche Bank or somewhere like that, and they've got to do proper work, you know? I say proper work, everyone does proper work, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, so it's about understanding your customer, qualifying your customer, qualifying your candidate. It is all sales. It is sales, you know? And look, the more that when we're talking about, I get riled up and I get passionate about it because it is sales. It is. And I love sales, you know? I think in the UK, there's a stigma around sales.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Which I think it's really bad. I think there's this misconception that salespeople are sleazy or chancers and so on and so forth. But I'm going to be honest with you, there is, especially salespeople and recruiters as well, there's a place for us in the supply chain, in the employment supply chain. You know, it's very, very important what it is that we do. And I think the good recruiters, all you recruiters out there, just remember that, you know. People speak to clients sometimes and it's like, oh no, the clients, it's a client, you know, no, if you know what you're doing and you have value to add, they should respect you and respect your time. If they can't do that, move on, find someone else that will. It's as simple as that.
If you are a recruiter or a recruitment business owner and you are wondering, how do I elevate my skills in recruitment? How do I help my team improve their BD practices? Is my strategy working? Why are people not picking up the phone? Why am I not able to pick up the phone and be confident in selling? Why am I not able to get more clients on exclusive, sell my first retainer, get higher fees? Why am I struggling to convert clients from an initial cold call? Or maybe I'm not even getting clients on the phone. Like, if you're struggling with any of those types of things, the short answer is there's no like silver bullet for this type of stuff, but that is ultimately exactly what I do. I help recruiters and recruitment business owners specifically with recruitment, business development, performance coaching. So if that is something that you are potentially open to, all my details are below here. You should definitely follow me on LinkedIn, message me there. Always happy to help. And first time we speak, I'm not going to charge a penny. Ultimately, this podcast, I want to help people, right? So if you are interested, reach out to me and let's talk.
Simple as that. You know, that's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, mate, I 1,000% agree. This is one of the reasons why I set this podcast up, right? I'm just so passionate about lifting the standards of the recruitment industry because I've said this on the podcast so many times that when I was 20 and I got my first proper job, which was an apprenticeship in recruitment, being paid absolute peanuts. And I moved after a couple of months because I didn't like the social care market, found a role in nursing recruitment, fell in love with it, loved that market. To this day, it was some of the greatest times I've ever had. But what stuck out is when I went to one of my mum's friends' family's house and saw their kids and all the rest of it, and they're like, oh, you got a job now, what are you doing? I was like, my mum would interrupt and go, he works in healthcare. Oh, Charlie's always wanted to do orthopedics. He's like, yeah, he's working with orthopedic nurses and stuff. I'm like, yeah, I recruit them. Yeah. And they're all looking at me like, oh, you're a recruiter? And I'm like, I'm a recruitment consultant. Yeah, and they're like, oh, right. And I'm like looking around the room like, what? Yeah. It's like I've just told people I'm in the porn industry or like I'm a drug dealer. Would you prefer me to be a drug dealer? Like, what's going on here? And I told them like the progression that I can get, the money I could earn.
Absolutely.
And then by the time I was like 21, 22 years old, and I'm like, I've got 20 grand saved.
Yeah.
Like, I'm 22 years old. Most of my friends have just finished uni. They're in like 100k worth of debt. I've just saved 20 grand. Yeah. Which back then for me was a lot of fucking money, especially coming like growing up with no money.
It's still a lot of money now. 20 grand, you know, 20 grand is a lot of money to the right person.
Just to see that in your savings account in your early 20s, when all your mates are going clubbing and stuff, I was like, what the fuck? So for me, like, I'm so passionate about like giving out so much to elevate this industry because I believe like whenever I work with a new business and I sit down with anything from founder to trainee and I hear them say things like what you just said about, oh, you know, Mr. Client or Mrs. Client or, you know, like what do I have to, I'm just a recruiter. I have to like metaphorically slap people and go, wake the fuck up. Like, you realise how much value you have,
Absolutely.
Right? And like the one thing that stood with me was when I was about 23, 24 years old, and everyone has that voice in their head when they first start, right? Especially when you're young, oh, I'm just a recruiter. The VP of sales is 40 plus years old, been in this market 20 years, what can I add? And my boss just sat me down and was just like, how many CVs do you reckon he screens every day? I was like, well, I don't know. Let's say he's hired 4 sales reps this year, right? How many CVs do you reckon he has looked at, qualified, and managed through that process? I don't know, maybe a dozen in the year. How many do you qualify a day? I was like, at least a dozen. Okay, so you compound that, you've been doing this for how many years? How many CVs have you screened? How many candidates have you qualified? How many clients have you spoken to? How much do you know about this market? How do you know about how this person gets to there and how this client manages? How much do you know?
You're
as soon as he said that, I was like,
You're the expert.
Oh, so our whole marketing around how we're experts, we're actually fucking experts.
Yeah, of course.
We're not experts in medical technology.
Yeah.
We're experts in the recruitment in this market.
Of course.
And that for me was like the light bulb moment of, I don't need to know the fucking measurements of your device or what it's made of or how it's been manufactured. I just need to know how to manage your interview process, get someone in front of you, save you time and money, and place that person in your company.
Exactly.
Ain't rocket
And
science.
mate, I had very, very similar conversations with a lot of my team members. I think it's the thing that happens in the beginning, you know. It's a bit imposter syndrome-y, you know, especially if you're working in certain sectors as well. For example, in our sector where there's high earners, you know, I remember starting off when I was younger and thinking, these people are on like 1,000 a day. They make 1,000 a day. What could I possibly be able to say to someone like that? I've never met anyone that made £1,000 a day. Do you know what I mean? I thought, wow, this guy makes £1,000 a day.
Literally.
How can I tell him anything? You know, I'm just some little kid from Luton. What do I know? Do you know what I mean? And it wasn't until time went on, and then I thought, well, no, but from a recruitment perspective, I'm the expert. That's my sector.
Yeah.
You know, and I got to the point, you know, you get to the point, and everyone's been there, you know, I think once you get to principal, top-level consultant, where my clients are asking me advice. Clients are calling me saying, Leon, I need your advice. This has nothing to do with, you know, we're looking to hire people on this geographical location. We want to do X, Y, and Z. What do we do? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. And I tell them, and I get off the phone, and that's when I start to think, oh, okay, I know, I'm the man. I know what I'm talking about, you know?
100%.
So, yeah, and I think that goes back to, as you know, similar to what you said earlier, a takeaway for people that are starting out, you know, like, don't feel as though you are an imposter. Like, sharpen your skills, learn your craft, absolutely, but you're not an imposter, you know. You're the expert in this field. You know, they're the experts in what they do, absolutely. I'm not going to tell, I could not write a bit of code to save my life, but I can talk a good game to find people who can write code. Absolutely, because I know that world, you know, and it's the same for anyone else that's starting out, is what I believe.
100%. So I think we're both in agreement that recruitment, I believe firmly, is a sales job.
Yeah, I would agree.
However, and the next thing we're going to talk about around like the whole cold calling, why we think it might be dying and how to be good at it. But I think, especially in 2026 and the, you know, whatever happens with AI and stuff, you can't just cold call. You can't, like, I think dead are the days of, you know, and I grew up in an environment where you get a stack of papers that the operations team has printed out, go call through this list and go get some jobs. I think if you just do that and you're ignoring LinkedIn, like social media posting, you're, you know, missing out on marketing, automation and stuff. I think it's fucking hard now. I think it's still possible. I just think if you're not doing all these other things when other agencies are using those other avenues, I think you're going to really struggle, right?
Yeah, in this current, we looked at it before. I think we worked out that you need about 4 or 5 different touch points.
At least, yeah.
At least, you know, at least. You know, like the phone, look, it's the way that society has moved on, and unfortunately, so AI it's a gift and a curse, right? So we can use AI to improve some of the processes that we have as recruiters, absolutely. But I think also the surge of AI and the surge of scams and the surge of, you know, stupid automated calls to people has made it so people just don't answer the phone. That's the issue, you know. I find it quite frustrating. I had a conversation this morning with another gentleman that, you know, potentially coming into work with us to do something else. And I always say our hit rate once we get a client in front of us, you know, we sit down with myself and one of the other senior team members, and we discuss their pain points and how we can help with that. Our hit rate to get terms of business signed is super high, 90%, I would say. Yeah. It's very, very rare that we get a client on the call and we explain to them what it is that we can do, and they don't work with us in the end. Because by the time they're on the call, they have a need, you know, and when we speak to them and we understand what they're looking for, we understand how we can help, and then we explain to them how we can help, 9 times out of 10 it goes somewhere. The issue is that getting those people on the phone. You know, I think I said this to you before, I get, nowadays when people call me, I get likely nuisance. So it's a random number and it says likely nuisance. And I'm not answering, that's just a likely nuisance. And you know how you get branded as nuisance? From a certain amount of people not answering your phone call. So if you're doing recruitment and you're ringing 100 people every single day, over the course of a week, you ring 500 people, right? And you might get, I don't know, a 15%, or I think we looked at it before actually. I think the answer rate that we were getting, especially in the US, was around about 13%, right? So you're getting a 13% hit rate for people answering the phone, right? Actually answering the phone. You made 500 phone calls and you got 13% answer. AT&T or Verizon or T-Mobile or whoever's the phone carrier in the US is going to go, that's a scam number. People are answering it. Mark that as nuisance. And it's not. It's Charles calling with a solution that can actually help Mr. or Mrs. Client. It's really frustrating, you know? So for me, that's why I believe that the traditional, conventional ways of doing recruitment, of picking up the phone, pick up the phone, those days are dead.
Yeah.
You need multiple touch points. You need to be using your LinkedIn. You need to be doing your email outreach. You need to be thinking outside of the box. You know, you need to be doing other things to contact people. Because 9 times out of 10, you can't actually help with their problem. You can help, you know, they still have requirements, they still have needs, they still have projects, they still have things happening, and they need to hire people. And yeah, as I say, 9 times out of 10, you can help them with that, but it's a matter of getting in front of them. So I think technology and AI is what has sort of slowed down, or is killing business development. I wouldn't say it's quite dead, or business development's never going to be dead. Traditional business development.
If I owned a recruitment business now and hired just a BDR or BDM, whatever, and just said, here's a list of people to go and call. Like you said, I've seen it. I've literally seen it where I've sat down with founders and they've said, the guys aren't on the phone enough. We need to do some initiative. And I'm like, yeah, totally. Like I get it, because for me as mate, put yourself in my shoes for a second. You go into an office to work externally, you're doing desk coaching with people and all you can hear is, and I'm like, right, okay. Like
5 years ago, that was not the norm. 5 years ago, the norm was
of course,
people walking around.
Of course,
I mean, you still get that now. Don't get me wrong. Don't absolutely. My guys still do 2.5 hours on the phone. 2 hours, I'd say, probably 2 hours on the phone every day. You know, so people are still on the phone. What I'm saying is, from a business development perspective, it's very, 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 very challenging to pick up the phone. Back in the day, you'd get 100 numbers. As you said earlier, ops team will give them to you. You'd call through those numbers, you'd pitch to those people, and you would pick something up.
Yeah.
You would.
100%.
Someone would say to you, yeah, do you know what, I need this. Oh, yeah, I need that.
And I think that's where, when we said about is recruitment a marketing or a sales job, I think that's where the marketing aspect comes in.
Yeah.
Because a lot of recruiters, like, I say this to people when I work with them, it's like, look, I was terrible at spec outs. I was brilliant at verbal spec outs because I knew my candidates so well, I knew their need, I knew their pains, and I knew that type of business, what they would look for. So when I did my intro and say, look, I've got this candidate, I'd always get people go, fucking hell, that sounds like an absolute gem. Like, where have you found this person?
But also, what I'm finding nowadays, especially with some of the newer people, you have consultants hiding behind the marketing. You know, oh well, I've written my post on LinkedIn. You know, I've sent my specs out. That's all I can do today. Sorry, have you called anyone today? Oh well, I've made some phone calls, but they didn't really answer the phone. Well, what else could we be doing? How else could we try and contact these people? You know, what else can we do? I'm big on, I'm not trying to give away all my secrets, you know, text messages, WhatsApps. Yeah. Like reaching out to people in other ways. Think outside the box.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
I think marketing, yes, you need to be doing it, absolutely. But you have a lot of consultants that are then hiding behind the marketing.
You never really see people hide behind the sales. You see people hide behind marketing.
Yeah.
Why?
It's easy.
Because writing a post, okay, sure, not everyone's that creative, but you
have ChatGPT now. You can just stick it into ChatGPT.
This is exactly what I'm saying.
They put it in ChatGPT, here we go, make it more like this, schedule them for the week, done. That's a 5-minute job.
Same thing with your email marketing as well.
Same thing.
I spit out of the first thing that comes into my head, here's the email I want to send Leon.
Yep.
Write it better, like get a better call to action, get a better hook, and I read through it and I go, take that part, done, send, right? Yeah. So I want to touch on like how to get people on the phone in a second. But yeah, you do see it, and I've mentioned this on so many podcasts now. I'm going to fucking repeat myself, but a lot of people nowadays getting into recruitment don't ever need to pick up the phone for anything. I said this when I had a guy called Martin Crapper on the podcast. It was a wicked episode, and I said to him on the show that like, I'm not even that old, I'm only 32, but when I was in secondary school, I'd have to go and knock for my mate or ring the landline and like, oh, hello, Mrs. Straw, you okay? Is Andrew in? It's like, yeah, come knock for the house.
Yeah.
Like,
are you playing out?
do you know what I mean?
Is so-and-so playing out?
My first ever girlfriend, like I'd have to call the landline.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Is she in? Like, you don't have to do that anymore. Like even when we had like a family like Saturday night takeaway, like, do you want to call the chicken shop or the fish and chip shop?
Nah,
like,
I just order it.
now it's everything is just you just go on the app. It's so easy. So people like have almost lost this ability. So then coming into this job, when I first got into recruitment, I was like, I get to speak to people on the phone. Great, like easy.
It's my favourite thing to do. I love talking.
Exactly. And the worst days were the days when no one picks up. That's fucking, it's horrible. So from your, and again, you don't have to share all your secrets, right? But this is a big part of what I do now working with people is like, okay, cool. Like we've got a list of people, sure, but what are the different touch points to actually get someone to look at that WhatsApp message, that LinkedIn message, that email, listen to that voice note on LinkedIn or WhatsApp and go, fair, okay, cool, I'll have a chat. I think there are a couple of different ways, but like, what would you say in terms of how to actually get clients to look at that and go, if this person called, I'd answer it?
Okay, ultimately, still one of the most important things, again, is around your value add, you know? And I think it's important to understand your customer and understand, you can copy and paste a text message or a WhatsApp message or regurgitate the same voice. I had one of my clients that I work with, right? They have needs. Loads of needs. Massive company based in Switzerland. Loads of needs. And my client, one day I was on the phone to him and he said to me, I'm getting a call from said agency. I'm not going to mention the agency's name. Said agency. He goes, there's this young kid that calls me every single Tuesday or Wednesday and he regurgitates the same pitch. And he goes, I feel sorry for him. I can tell he's young. So I always listen to him and I always say, oh, maybe next quarter. This guy's got opportunities. Because I work with him. And I sat there and thought, oh, poor kid, first of all, but also bad management on whoever's given him that list and said, just ring these people. If they did more candidate time and spoke to more people in the market, they would find out this customer was looking for X, Y, and Z. If he called and said, Mr. Customer, or left a voicemail and said, Mr. Customer, or Mrs. Customer, I know you work with Agnes Cole, I know you work with this one, and I know you work with that one. I know that you're looking for X, Y, and Z. I've got that person in my network. How about we talk? Whether you do that by text, by LinkedIn, by email, by whatever, it's still value add. You still have to, where is your value add? There's no point
You're also
copying
showing
and pasting.
market expertise.
Exactly. There's no
you
point.
Found that through the market.
You can copy and paste the same LinkedIn message. You can do a voice note on LinkedIn. You can do a voice note on text message. You can do whatever it's going to be. But nonetheless, you still need to hook me in. And your hook needs to be real. In this market, especially in my market, your hook needs to be real. For me, when I spoke to you, you said to me, are you interested in training? And I was like, yeah, you caught me at a good time. Definitely, cool. And you said to me, would you like to do a podcast? And I thought, yes, this year was more about pushing myself forward, pushing the brand forward. They're the two things that I wanted to do. Perfect, let's have a chat, Charles. Do you know what I mean? It makes sense. It makes sense for me. You know, if I was a one-man band and I didn't have any, and I had no one in my team, you've looked at my business, you saw we have a team of 10. You thought, okay, they're, relatively newer business, they look like this, they look like that, they might need some training, You reached out off the basis of that and you were right, You could have sent me a text message and said, Charles, this is Leon, this is Charles, this is what I do. Are you looking for any training? I probably would have been like, okay, let's have a chat. Same thing. Do you know what I mean? It's because there is a pain point there. I want to upskill my guys.
Yeah.
You're someone that said to me, I potentially could upskill your guys. That's what you said to me,
And just to echo on that, just so that people know what goes through my mind as an ex-recruiter and obviously on the tool selling now, I saw your profile 3-6 months before. I'll be honest, when I saw loads of stuff around AI and you're doing this, that, and the other, I was like, I don't know, is this really within my ICP? And I thought, okay, I'm pretty busy with delivery right now. However, what I'm going to do is I'm going to nurture it. So I connected with you, engaged with some of your content, dropped you a message on LinkedIn. I think I may have sent you one email, and then on Sourcewell, I've got this campaign, which is every step, it always follows with a call the next day.
Yep.
So it starts off with an email, and then the call starts the next day. Then it's a LinkedIn call, WhatsApp call. Every single step I make is a call. I was fortunate enough that the first email went out, I called you, and I think my opener was something along the lines of, you may have seen an email that I've sent you, I'm calling for 2 reasons, have I caught you the worst possible time? And your reply was, you've caught me at a pretty shit time, what are the 2 reasons? I said, thought you'd be a great guest of the podcast, and also you got 10 people, don't have an internal L&D function, that's what I do, would like to see whether there'll be a fit. And you literally said, yes, busy, book a call with my PA, speak to you next week, and then we jumped on a call and we're here today.
Done.
So so that people understand, like, it wasn't as simple as just a fucking phone call. Just see your LinkedIn and go, yeah, I'll just call this person, which don't get me wrong, sometimes I do. When I see a company, sometimes I do that. But there's so many little things in the background and doing a little bit of research so that when you do get on the call, and by the way, not over the top research, like I saw you won an award in 2017 in this area. No, like just real surface level. You don't need to know absolutely everything. You just need to know surface level, what the pain points potentially are, what your solution is, and ask fucking questions.
Exactly. It's value add. Again, I could not agree with that anymore. I had before I started the business, I worked for a company called Cloudstream, and the director there at the time, a guy called Mike Petrie, taught me a lot about sales in such a short space of time. But one of the things I sat next to him. He was one of the directors there, and he said to me, research. He was like, don't spend an hour doing research. Spend 5-10 minutes before your call, have a look at who they are, call them and explain to them how you can add value. That's it. That's really it. And it goes back to what we said earlier about the kid that I was mentioning. If he would have done enough research, he could probably have pulled some jobs. And I hope that now, I don't know who this kid is, man. I still think about him to this day, poor kid. Poor guy, That sounds patronizing, kid, I hope that, someone said to him, this is how you have to do it. Because you only know what you know, and you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until someone showed me. Someone said to me, you need to do more research. Because I was doing that. I had that old school, just pick up the phone.
See someone call them
and just try and pitch and wing it. And wing your way through the call. Sometimes that works, don't get me wrong. Ways they say even a broken clock is right twice a day. Just wing it. No.
That's also another thing you just mentioned there around like where I see a lot of recruiters really struggle, and even like solo founders or principal level consultants that have had some success, like where the market's been quite good and it started to dip. Like one key thing I've noticed is that my whole philosophy around recruitment is every single stage of the process is revolved around your questioning. So if you went to go and pitch a company around how they could save time in their process and they probably struggle finding the right talent and this is how we offer, but actually they've partnered with an agency for 10 years and they've never missed the ball, or maybe they've never worked retained but they've never had to, or whatever it is. Like I see so many people go in and they believe in their value add, they believe in their messaging, all the rest of it, but they don't actually ask fucking questions. So what we were talking about, qualify. People go into a cold call and go like, I know you're hiring, I've heard this. They've done their research. Here's how we can help. And they go, nah, yeah, but your role's been open for 4 weeks. Yes, it's fine, like we're good. And it's like, oh, but we could really help. Like we've worked with Microsoft and this. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Whatever.
That means nothing.
And it's just like, no, like ask questions. But this is where I think a lot of people struggle. And I've had this recently with some clients where they're like, I get stuck. Like, what do I ask? So I guess a good question for you. You might be able to add a lot of value to people. Like when you go into a client call, when your guys go into a client call, do you have like an idea or like a framework in terms of here are the things that we need to be asking around? Like I've got like 3 key things that spiral off into dozens of questions. But like
definitely. I think for us in our space, in our sector, it's going to be a lot around project.
Yeah. Just remind everyone what your sector is again.
So IT, SAP.
Okay, cool.
So SAP is our bread and butter, but we do IT across the board, more or less. Okay. Yeah, but it would be mostly around projects.
Yeah.
Projects, delivery time, what it is that you're looking at. And then from there, you can always start to pick up where are the skill gaps. Because there's always skill gaps.
Yes.
There's always skill gaps. Don't get me wrong, you might be working with this agency, and there's a lot of good agencies out there. There is I've worked for some of the best agencies especially in our space, that sometimes I speak to people and they're like, yeah, we work with this said agency, and I work there and I know who their account manager is, and I'm like, there's no point. He's really good, or she's excellent. She's the best recruiter that I know. There's no point getting on. Do you know what I mean? She's got that sewn up. Within 10 minutes, I'm getting a phone call saying, why are you trying to pitch my clients? Do you know what I mean? So there is some really, really, really good agencies out there, really, really, really good consultants. But a lot of my questions would be around project. What's going on in the projects? What have you got planned? What does hiring look like for you in the next 12 to 18 months? What's the direction the business is heading in? Because sometimes you might speak to agencies, companies, and they say, we're not hiring for 6 months, but because of X, Y, and Z. We've just bought this business, or all projects are on hold because you know we're going through a large M&A right now. This is what we're going to be doing. You know, I'm really, really big on one of my mates. He's very successful. He owns an estate agency. One of the first things that he said to me when I first started off was around jab, jab, hook. Not everything has to be a knockout straight away. Just like you engage with some of my posts when you first saw me. That was the jab. There's a jab, then the hook. Not everything has to be a knockout straight away. Sometimes I'll jump on a call with a client, just understand their pain points, speak to them. Okay, cool, this is where we can help. Or we'll review in our PSL again and Let's keep in contact. Maybe I'll speak to them again. I hear you looking for this. Oh, give them a little something. Here's a little freebie or so on and so forth. Whatever it is, you know. Start building the relationship, building the relationship. You know, like it takes 10 years to become an overnight success, right? It's the truth. You know, sometimes I have guys. Some of my old accounts are now the house accounts, and people go, how your account does this, or you done this, and I'm like, yeah, but I've been nurturing that account for 8 years. I've been working with these people for 8 years. They know my kid's name. I know their kid's name. Yeah. You know, this is not. You can't just expect to walk into this and be like, oh yeah, you know. So I think for me, it's about asking projects and understanding the business. You mentioned earlier about understanding the business. You know, which takes me back to, then you can start to form a relationship. You can start to form some sort of familiarity and understanding, you know. Keep checking in, and then eventually, hopefully, you get somewhere. You might not, and if you don't, something else will happen.
100%. It's so similar to like when I got into L&D and I had access to all this training that these giant tech recruitment agencies had. Won't name the names, but there were some big boys, and I had all their training, right? And I was looking through it, and I was like, this is a lot of the similar type. Let's face it, most recruitment like training is very similar. There's just some like slight nuances and wording and whatnot. But the one thing that I took away that I use to this day, and it's pretty much exactly what I used to do, it's similar to you, but our work wasn't necessarily overly project work. It was what's going on with them and the team. So like if I'm speaking to the national sales manager, what's going on in their world, what's going on in their team. They usually manage maybe a North and South regional manager, maybe a handful of reps, right? What's happening with the overall company? So my first question normally is like, what's the company growth plans, or how are you finding the market, or you know, whatever that is, how are you getting on against your competitor? I hear that they've done this, that, and the other. Show a bit of research, and then finally is the recruitment, which kind of ties into the company, especially if you're asking growth plans, and they say we've just hired for this quarter, but call me again in the next quarter. I used to keep those guys on the phone for 10, 15 minutes,
absolutely,
just to like nurture them and understand like how did you recruit, like you know. Find out whether is it internal, is it HR, is it them, is it another agency?
For me, if we book 9 times out of 10, if I book a half an hour call with a client, we're doing a half an hour call. Yeah. You know, if you tell me within the first 5 minutes that you're not hiring for 6 months, that's fine. We're going to talk about everything else. Yeah. We're going to talk about you as a business. We're going to talk about my business. We're going to talk about what is that, you know, any pain points that you might be feeling, or what you're forecasting to happen in the future, what you think could be a problem, what you're worrying isn't going to be a problem, what's keeping you up at night, all of these things. We're talking about it all. You know, I'm not just going to go, oh, all right, then, well, no, you're not going to get off the phone.
I had that this morning, actually. I had a solo founder engaged with some content a few weeks ago. He pushed the call back a few times, and it's turned out that he's starting to work with someone else that's focusing more on like the high-level business operation side of things. And he WhatsApped me last night and said, like, look, in terms of like the sales stuff and like the psychology, the NLP, he's like, I want to work with you, but full transparency, I'm a solo founder, I'm a dad, like, let's just do it in 3 months. So if you don't want to do the call tomorrow, then don't worry. And I'll be honest, there was a part of me that was like, oh, fuck's sake, like, you know, well, what's the point? And then I thought, no. So I messaged him this morning and I was just like, sorry, man, I was like super late with the baby. Let's just jump on the call. Yeah. And I remember my first ever client, a guy called Callum, who's been on the podcast before. First time I ever met him, we didn't speak about anything to do with business for 40 minutes. And then by the 40th minute, he went, oh my God, I realised I've got 20 minutes, I've got to shoot to my next meeting. Tell me a little bit about what you do. And then after that, and when I got him on the podcast, I asked him like, is that what you normally do? And he went, I have this thing that, and he's like, maybe this is just me, and his whole branding is like, he's the zestiest man in recruitment. It sounds a bit weird, but his business is called Add Some Zest, and it works, right? Yeah. But his whole thing is that, how do I differentiate myself? Well, I'm such a curious person. I like to get to know people. I want to understand, are they into family, sport? You know, I want to get to know them. And then once I've done that, I've built a bond with them. And I know some people think that relationships in recruitment is a bit corny, but like,
no, relationships.
I think it's fucking everything, because eventually when that like client, let's say they say, oh, I'm thinking about hiring maybe in June, so give me a call back then. But you've spoken about boxing, Muay Thai, spoken about, you know, all these other types of things. You give them a call in a month's time.
They're going to remember you.
they're going to fucking remember you.
Yeah,
this is the point I'm trying to explain to people. They are going to remember you.
And I think, personally, I think relationships, it's funny, relationships, they're not corny at all in recruitment.
Thank you.
They're absolutely not. Relationships are pivotal. Any good recruiter has proper relationships. I've made the mistake in the past where I've hired people, I've spoken to people, and I've brought them in and they've said to me, I've got this client, I've got this client, I've got this client, I've got this client. Then when they join, I'm like, okay, so where's your client? I'm just going to quickly send an email. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that's not really your client, is it? It's not. That's someone you might have worked with. Yeah. It's not really your client, man. Bro, all my clients are on WhatsApp. They know me. Yeah. We talk direct. Yeah. They know me. They send me a message on Christmas Day saying, Happy Christmas, Leon, to you and your family. I message them back saying, you too. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just like you have a relationship with your, not with every single client, but your top clients, you know them. Yeah. You know them.
You know that if you call them on a Friday, even though they know and you know there are no hiring plans for the rest of the year and it's February,
speak to you.
They'll answer the phone and go, you all right, mate?
Oh, you're right, I've not spoken to you in ages.
What's going on?
I spoke to you the other day.
They're not going to answer the phone. I thought I told you we're not hiring. Yeah. They're going to be like, you all right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
What's going on?
Yeah,
and I think, listen, like, the reason why I mention that is because I bang on about relationships all the time, and I've had some people comment on posts being like, relationships aren't a quantifiable metric. I'm like, yeah, but...
Mate, with how the market has been, again, sorry to cut you off, the market's been tough for everyone in recruitment the last 18 months. It's been tough. Not for everyone. Some people have had success and it's been great for them.
Largely speaking.
But largely speaking, the market has been a challenge, and new business has been a challenge. The people that I've seen that have still managed to do well and still managed to keep their businesses afloat and still managed to do, close to their projections or, be in good positions were the people that had historic relationships in the right places, because especially in our space, in technology, what it is that we do, 9 times out of 10, our projects don't really stop. Because we work with some of the largest organizations in the world, they don't stop, they slow down. They might go from hiring 10 people every month to hiring 3 people every month. They slow down. Coca-Cola won't stop, Pepsi won't stop. They can't. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? They've got X, Y, and Z happening. They've got 100, 200 million pound a year projects. They can't stop. They need to improve that supply chain. So they slow down, absolutely. Yeah. And the people, that, as I say, that have managed to keep success and continue success have been the people that have long-lasting relationships. It's been difficult to make, to do business development of new business in this current market that we've had over the last 18 months. So I think, anyone that says that relationships don't matter, I just think, no. If anyone said that to me, I'm like, you've not really done recruitment. Relationships are very, very important.
I'm glad you said that, because I've been fighting people in the comments when they say, like, it's not a quantifiable metric, and I'm like, right, okay. And I've asked people on the podcast, like, how do you quantify relationships? Largely, and I agree with this, largely it's what we just said. Like, I've got, they're not even clients. I never invoiced them. But like, I spoke to a lady this morning about our separate business, Milo. She answers the phone and goes, oh, Charles, it's been such a while. How are you? How's your baby? I've never worked with her before. I've got a great relationship. I've been to their office. I've had tea, coffee, beers. Like, that for me is a relationship. And I know that, okay, granted, like, I might not necessarily do any coaching for them because they've got a very good infrastructure and stuff. They might not necessarily need me. But when I told her about the separate business, she was like, why don't you come in next month and show us it? And then when it's ready, we'd be very interested in that type of thing. So there's a potential. And again, I'm not coming at this as a pure sales-minded. I'm of the ilk that I like people.
Same.
Like, I like building relationships with people. I've got a guy that I worked with. I met at like a live podcasting event. I was his business coach for the first 3 to 6 months of his journey, and then he's got to a position where he's like, "You've done your job. I don't need you anymore." And he's coming on the podcast literally end of this month actually to talk about what's happened 18 months on. He's got like a £3 million valuation. We just chat every quarter about PlayStation, about family, about football, about podcasting, about business and stuff. Not working with him anymore, but we've got a fucking good relationship. And luckily, because of that, he's fucking referred me to people and all the rest of it. So I think this is a trick that people miss, right? Is that people have the blinkers on in recruitment.
Yep.
If you're like, you've been in this game a long time, you know that you take those blinkers off and you speak to someone, they go, we're not hire, we don't really hire or whatever. But you build a relationship up with that person, you meet them at conferences or whatever. They will speak highly of you. They remember you. And if in passing they go, yeah, we need a recruiter. We haven't filled this, SAP developer role. And they go, I know someone.
Yeah.
And they remember you.
Relationships are so important. Relationships are everything. Because again, it goes back to the first question. Relationships are important in sales. That's what it is. Because this is a sales industry. It's
Just
a
a question on
job.
that. So there's a guy, I can't remember his name now. He's like the most hated sales trainer. I can't remember his name. But I've seen him comment on posts before where people talk about relationships, and he always comments with like the throwing up emoji. And I've seen some of his content and some of these like sales trainer people outside of recruitment where they don't like the term relationships.
Why?
I wanted to ask you, because I'm about to embark on essentially selling rec tech and software, right? But I think that relationships are still going to be fucking pivotal for that.
Of course.
But why do you think that people outside of recruitment that are in sales think that relationships are a bit?
I have no idea. I've never heard that, and I think I don't understand how you can possibly think that you can do a sales role without having proper relationships. Like, I feel like any good mate. I've bought cars from Mercedes before, and the lady that I bought my car from, every year she calls me and tells me there's a new car out. Like, do you know what I mean? There's an upgrade of your car. Do you
think it's very specific?
Because
then, like,
we have a relationship. She knows who I am. She does sales.
Yeah.
That's like traditional sales. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Do you think that maybe it's like specific to what that person's selling? Like, for example, I used to use the analogy when I used to do training academies, and we talked about fab spin selling, and we would do like some role plays of like, not sell me this pen, but like use this methodology to sell, you know, this phone to me or whatever. And I always used to give the same story about when I bought a Sony Bravia TV, and I think I bought the PS4 Pro, which was HDR at the time or whatever it was, and the guy in Curry's PC World was like, so we got the Samsung here, turns it on and went, good quality. Got an LG here, and I just looked at this guy and I was like, you're the most underwhelming man I've ever met in my fucking life. My ex-girlfriend at the time was like, just buy a fucking TV. What? They're all the same. And I'm like, no. And then he didn't ask me a single question. I was like, mate, I'm really sorry. I don't mean to be rude. Is there anyone else that's like, you know, that's an expert in these TVs? I mean, let me go and get my colleague out. Got this giant fat dude come out, and he went like, hello mate, you're right. So what are you looking to get? And I was like, I need to get a new TV. Why? Now he's asked me why. Well, I need a new TV. He's like, what for? TV, gaming. I was like, I'm a big gamer. And he went, oh, what games do you play? Call of Duty, GTA. Got Red Dead Redemption 2 recently. He went, PlayStation 4. You got the Pro? Right, let me show you this. Right, tell me a little bit about what's the room look like. Okay, cool. What's most important? When he actually started telling me about this TV, he was like, visualize the map when you're playing COD in that corner there. And when you're playing Red Dead, the ray tracing, this, that, and the other. I looked at him and went,
that's a salesman.
I've got cash, I'll buy it right now.
Yeah.
And he was just like, oh, do you want to do the finance deal? I'll fucking pay for it right now. It's 500 quid, I'll buy it. And I'll never forget that. But the reason why I'm bringing that story up is that he's not going to have to call me ever again, because I bought a TV. That TV lasted me 8-9 years, right? I think cars different. I think some like rec tech may be different, where you have to have the relationship. But maybe if I'm playing devil's advocate, there might be some aspects of sales that is just super transactional.
Yes, to a certain extent. But for me personally, if I go somewhere and I get a good service, I don't forget.
Yeah.
I don't forget. Like, if I was, you know, okay, so you bought that TV. If you went back to Curry's, saying Curry's tomorrow because you need to buy your little one an iPad, I would be looking for that guy.
Oh,
again.
100%.
Do you know what I mean?
100%.
I'd be like, the last time I was in here, I spoke to a guy called, I don't know who he was, describe him, you know, is he around?
100%.
Because sales it's not just it's not just the transaction of buying something. I think it's also the experience. The experience.
Yes.
The experience is so important. You know, it's like a lot of my clients work with us as recruiters. A big part of your sales pitch as a recruiter should be around, I'm going to take away these problems for you.
Yeah.
The experience that your hiring experience is going to be easier through me. It's the same with the candidates.
Yeah.
You don't want to negotiate money, Mr. Candidate. Some people don't want to talk about money. I'll ask those questions for you. You know, you don't want to be the bad guy. I'll be the bad guy. Easy. I can do that. It's no problem. Your experience through this next hiring process is going to be easy because I'm going to do that. That's where I get paid.
Yeah.
You know, and as I say, it goes. So for me, if I get a good service, I'm going to remember it. No matter what it is that I do, and I go back. I am. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I am a real creature of habit. Yeah. If something goes well, I want to do it again. I want that again. I don't like, because there's nothing that annoys me more. It's like. And there's nothing that annoys me more than when something goes wrong. You know, it's like, I would say this, like, I hate ordering a bad Chinese. I love a Chinese. If I order from a new Chinese and it's not nice, I get so frustrated because I'm like, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
I should have just got the one that I know. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
So 9 times out of 10, we went to Nando's today because it was one of my colleagues' birthdays. We do birthday Nando's and New Start Nando's. We went to Nando's today.
Do the New Start Nando's.
We do New Start Nando's and we do birthday Nando's.
Love it.
So we had Nando's this afternoon for lunch. And as we finished, my colleague goes, I love Nando's. It's always, you know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You know what you're going to get with it, So I think for me, the experience, the service, and if something is good, I'll come back. So yes, sales can be transactional to a certain extent, but, if you get a good service, you're going to come back to that person. So that is a relationship in itself. I don't understand how someone can say sales is not a relationship job. It's not. It is, of course. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm totally with you.
I mean, that's my thoughts. I could be wrong, and maybe there's people out there that that know more than me that can say their part. But though that's my thoughts. That's just how I think. And
I'm totally with you. I think when I used to do recruitment, which wasn't even that long ago, but I used to find that I would take my clients on a journey, and like the one story that always springs to mind was just after we came out of the pandemic. I pulled this client. She was the managing director. She was a neuroscientist by trade, super smart. She hired all the clinical team, managed them, but she had one like historic salesperson that had been in the business from conception, right? And she put this advert up on Indeed, and I never really used to scrape job boards for leads because I used to think everyone's going to be all over it. But this popped up on one of my email alerts, 60K, right? Bear in mind the average salary for that role was about 40, 45. I scratched my head and thought, fuck me. This is insane. Looked at their website. There was a German business. They had Angela Merkel all over their branding. She was like cutting the ribbon and stuff. It was a game-changing neuroimaging device. I was like, this is unreal. Checked out her profile. I was like, wow, I need to fucking... Before I even sent an email, I just thought, I've got a number, I'm going to fucking call her. And her first thing, she was a Portuguese lady, just so red personality, so direct, just shut me down, right? She just turned around and was just like, Charles, I've had 250 applicants. With respect, don't need your help. And I just went silent for a second. I went, wow, 250 applications? She went, yeah. I went, okay. So I'm assuming that you're going to go at home tonight and go through every single one with a fine-tooth comb. Yeah. She's like, well, I haven't really had a chance. And the role's been open for 3 weeks, 250 applications. Our stats suggest that maybe 10% of them would be potentially decent. But out of that 10%, maybe 1% would actually be able to do the job. She was like, really? And I went, I've got the data to back up. I'm happy to send it. And she went, look, Charles, you've caught me a really bad time. I don't really know you. I'm going to go through these profiles. So just, if I need your help, I've got your details. I was like, I totally get that. Tell you what, let's make a deal. I'll leave you to go and look at these tonight, and then I'll give you a call tomorrow. And if you're happy with the profiles and happy with sitting there for hours and hours and hours going through them yourself, then I'll just back off. But if you think that that's actually quite long, and you're managing a team of 6 clinical people and you're running the business, then I can explain how we actually operate. And she was like, oh, fair enough. So it wasn't overly salesy. Gave her a call the next day. She answered the phone. No word of a lie. She picked up the phone and was like, hey, Noemi, it's Charles. How's it going? She was like, Charles, how'd you fucking do it? I was like, what? I was so bored, I resorted to drinking a whole bottle of red wine. I was like, oh my God, what happened? Half of them aren't from the UK. Most of them are not in sales. I got fed up. And I was like, well, no fucking wonder. No, that's kind of what I did.
That's what happens.
So let me get it straight. You go and you just look at the adverts? Is that what you do? Like, how do you not get so bored? And I was like, well, I don't do that. Like, we'll put an advert up for our branding, but we headhunt. Yeah. And she was like, what does that mean? I was like, let me talk you through it. I talked her through it, and she was like, oh, okay, you guys are fucking serious. Turns out the board couldn't sign off on retainers, but I said, I'll tell you what, look, I like you. If I can come meet you and package the videos, the psychometrics, the platform, we'll give you all of that, but you just have to work with us exclusively. I can't normally do this, and it was a bit of a negotiation tactic. And my boss was like, they really should be paying us, because it costs us £100 per psychometric. And I was like, dude, it's a 60K salary, 20%, I'll fucking place this job. I've got 3 people in mind. He was like, all right, cool. Met her with my sales director. We just fell in love with the company. We're like, this is just the best fucking client ever. Placed the job in 3 weeks. Guy that I placed there, by the way, this is an interesting story, actually emailed me in 2016 saying, I don't want to work with you, because I'd been in the job for a few weeks. He wanted to work with my manager. All those years later, 2021, I placed him, took him out for a coffee. He went, I have to say, man, I'm really embarrassed. I should not, you were new at the time, but you've grown into this now, and I respect it. He's the sales director there now. He's smashing it, right? But the whole point, the reason why I'm kind of explaining that story is I knew that there was going to be a problem. I've seen that problem so many times. I called and I wasn't overly pushy, and I knew that if I just gave her a little, if I pushed too much, she would have just told me to fuck off. Absolutely. Right? 100%. And then, if I just go into that, meet her and understand what the actual problems are, and then just show, this is what we do, this is how I can help this. and guide her through this process. And before the interviews, she hadn't interviewed salespeople before. So I was coaching her, these are the questions. When they sit there and go, it's 110% sales versus target. Okay, what was the actual cost of that product? Who are you selling to? What's your sales process? Like, these are the things you need to be asking. So every single time after the interviews, she was so complimentary around, like, I wouldn't have known to ask that. I liked them. I could have a glass of wine with them, so I probably would have hired them. But actually, they're not really a good fit. But yeah, she was a funny character. I remember I took that job on, this is like during COVID when we were all working from home, and I was working from my bedroom. And the first time I met her on a video call, she went, the fuck is that? Is that your bed? I was like, yeah, I'm working from home. She was like, in your bedroom? I was like, I'm living at home with mum. She went, oh, Charles, you're too old to live at home from mum. I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. At that point, I knew, I was like, I like this person. She's just fucking to the point, man. That was a fucking funny client, man.
Love that.
But yeah, man. But look, I've really enjoyed this conversation. Last question I always end up with, following today's episode, how can people get 1% better in recruitment?
Do you know something? 1% better. How do you become 1% better? Fail. Try, fail quick, try again. Keep failing. The more you fail, the more no's you get, the closer you're going to get to that yes. Just keep trying, fail as quick as you possibly can. If you have an idea to do something, do it. If it doesn't work, try something else. Just keep failing, because eventually you're going to get to that success. While you're thinking about, should I do that for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, someone else out there has already tried it and failed. Do you know how many things I've tried this year and failed already? How much money I've spent on stuff that I've tried and failed, We try it, we fail, we'd go again. That's it. So yeah, that's my one piece of advice to anyone in recruitment, in business, in sales, in marketing, whatever you want to say that is that we do. Try and fail. That's it.
Love that. Just keep failing.
Keep failing. Focus on just going. Keep going. You're going to fail, and be cool with that. Get comfortable with the fact that you're going to fail, because you will. Amongst all those failures is going to come your euphoric moment, your eureka moment. It's going to come. Just get comfortable with failing. That's it. And the win's going to come. The success will always come.
Yeah, love that. I always say to people when we go through like retainer training, or if I'm coaching someone and they're like, I want to sell my first retainer, and I always get asked the same questions, like, because I was essentially almost entirely retained towards the end of my like recruitment selling career, and they go like, how many like pitches did you have to make before you landed your first retainer? I was like, 80, 90. Yeah. And people look at me, wait, what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah.
You failed 90 times before you got a yes, exactly.
And every single time, like the first time I ever pitched our retained services, we had an iPad mini and I went to a conference, my client gave me a free ticket. And I've said this on the podcast before, but you'll love this. I got so nervous, I had the imposter syndrome. I was 23 and I was shaking, like visibly shaking. And he looked at me and giggled and was like, what's the matter? And I was like, we've got a good relationship. You're so nice. Like, I'm looking around at these giant fucking corporates, like, I don't know, man. And he just sat there and went, see that lady over there? She uses a toilet just like you.
Yeah.
See that guy over there?
That's my one.
Yeah.
That is my one.
He poos out his bum.
That is my one, Charles. That is honestly my one. Honestly, I always think, you had a poo this morning. I do that all the time. That is my one. I'm not even joking. The amount of times that I've had to start to do stuff that puts me out of my comfort zone, before I start to do it, I think, you had a poo. You woke up this morning, you strained, and you had a poo. You're just like me. It's normal.
It's just,
we're exactly the same person.
They're just a human.
Whoever said that to you is a real,
he's a legend.
Real legend.
He was one of my first ever good clients.
That's how I think. I've even said it to my guy. I think, I'm going to try and, on my link, I done a LinkedIn post. I say I done it, Chloe done it, about 6 months ago. And it says, it's the top of it said, everybody shits, or something like that. And then it was like, now I got your attention, But it was basically saying that.
100%, dude.
We're all the same.
I'll never forget when he first said that.
It's true though.
My whole physiology shifted from like being like this and shaking to then like really relaxing. Wait, what?
Charles, that is my exact ethos in life, bro.
He's so true.
I mean, that's exactly how I think. It's exactly what I think. That person did a poo this morning. They got up, they sat on the toilet, and they strained. dropped one, do you know what I mean? A little bit of water touched their bum.
Tell you what, that's great advice. If I'm a junior consultant or like an early founder listening to this and I'm fucking nervous about calling some VP or some CTO, just visualize the fact that they've had a shit and pick up the phone.
It's cool. We're all the same. I think, genuinely, we're all the same people. You know, all jokes aside, we're all the same. Imposter syndrome is a big thing in our space. You know, I think people a lot of the time, because we deal with, you know, the high level earners, not always, you know, but a lot of people, especially for me personally, as I said, when I first started off and I was speaking to people when I was like, this guy earns £1,000 a day. You know, back then I made £1,000 a month and a bit more. Do you know what I mean? This guy made it in a day. Who am I to tell this man anything? You know, who am I to try and push him down on his rate? Who am I to try and do all of these things? You know, so I think imposter syndrome is a real thing, but just remember that we're all the same, and sharpen your craft, and after a certain amount of time, you'll get to the point where you will be the expert. And when you're the expert, you'll know and be treated as an expert, be respected in your field as an expert, because you're an expert. You're someone. You're a knowledgeable person in your market, and remember that. Yeah. You know, and if the clients and the candidates can't respect you, we have a rule. Me and my brother works for me. With no dickheads, especially from a candidate perspective. It's a dickhead-free zone. No dickheads allowed. If you don't have 15 minutes to talk to me right now, or whether that's on Teams or on the phone or even whenever it is, if you don't have 15 minutes to talk to me when we've arranged, and you're rushing me off the phone and you're asking me about the rate and you want to know everything about the project before you tell me anything. No. Yeah. I'm sorry, I need to have a conversation with you, like, you know, a respectful conversation, because you're just going to do that to my client. You're going to walk on site and you're going to say something mad to my client. Yeah. So thank you very much. Well, you could have the best skills in the world. We have it all the time. You know, my team will go, came across this guy, he's really good, he's got all the skills, but I just don't like him. The way he spoke to me, the way that he was, And I'm like, we just won't put that person forward, you know, because it matters, you know. I treat you with respect. I'm talking to my candidates and to clients and to everyone that we interact with. We talk to them with respect. So you talk to me with respect, you know. So imposter syndrome is real. Remember to fail. You're an expert. That's it, right?
And pooing, yeah.
And pooing. And everyone poos.
Love it, man. Yeah, really appreciate that.
Thanks,
really enjoyed
Charles,
it,
much appreciate it, bro.
Nice one.
Cool.
I'll put all your details below.
Cool.
Thanks so much for watching or listening. Make sure that you are liking, commenting and subscribing / following the show, whatever platform it is that you are watching / listening to this on. Also make sure that you follow me on TikTok so that you don't miss out on some clips. The monthly newsletter gives you a roundup of the episodes that happened in that month with some actionable takeaways for you guys that's going to help you get 1% better in recruitment. I would love for you to comment or message me what your biggest takeaway is from this episode. And if you or someone that you know is interested in coming on the show, as you can see, we have had such a broad variety of people that have come on the show, all in the aim to get you guys 1% better in recruitment. So if you want to help support me with the show, make sure that you're getting people in touch with me, and also just reach out to me as well around the recruitment coaching training piece. That's ultimately how I fund this podcast, right? But loving doing this. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Can't do it without people that watch and listen to this podcast. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.